There you go.
Oh,
You're on.
see, no.
You're on now.
You guys did it, I didn't.
What high power?
Julie, that'd be the
I'm
last
fired.
time.
Congratulations, you're now a tech meeting.
Totally fired.
We're on, well, we're recording.
That's right, that's right. You're live. This is not Saturday night either.
Though we wish it was.
We're recording, so, welcome everyone. I'd like to open the meeting for the March 11th, Harwich Affordable Housing Trust. And we'll call, that will be our call to order discussion. I'd like to start first with, well, just a comment that Claudia can't make it today. She's home with the flu, make a long story short. And so I'm hoping she recovers. She said she might try to join us by online, but I emailed her and said, take care of yourself first. We'll move ahead. So with that, public comment, and Lou Urbano is asked to give us a discussion. So Lou, I'm going to give you the floor.
Appreciate it. You need a mic though.
Oh, want me to switch?
No, this room's designed for you to come up to the table. So we'll just do it that way.
Well, thank you.
And Lou, if you can state your name and your purpose and all that.
Lou Urbano, and I'm here just to talk a little bit about the West Harwich Square Development Project, which I believe some money was given to a couple weeks ago. And I'd like to start by first thanking this group for what they do. Second, I'd like to say that whenever I have a problem, I've been taught to have a solution at the same time, or don't bring it up. And third, that I think we need some clarity. I did send out a note. I don't know if everyone got it. I'd like to clarify my meaning on that note.
Okay.
And basically,
And Lou, like I just say, the notes you sent me, I did forward.
perfect.
And I think you sent notes to everyone yourselves as well, I believe. But
Yep,
Now, is this going to be a discussion or just the public comment?
it's just discussion, well, no discussion.
Public comment.
Just public comment, okay.
and so first, understand my intent. I believe that housing should be there, can be. I love the idea of mixed use. I think it's perfect. Here's where I think we need some caution. We don't want to buy into a concept that's not real. The notion of what I read in the paper of rebuilding the Exchange building, what a beautiful concept. But when you take that and you turn it into the actual tangible, there might be some disappointment. And here's why I say that. My wife and I, along with another group, have spent over 12 years in building up what we now know as Captain's Row. It didn't exist 13 years ago. Money was spent from a lot of people, even bringing a specialist in from Carolina who did renderings of the area of what it could be. We worked through the process of educating the town and going through all the various committees, getting a special district through the town, working with the commission to make that all happen. The idea of the Exchange building is such a beautiful concept, but when you try to fit it into the rules and regulations that were brought about, it starts to get a little messy. I was going to bring a picture, I left it in the car, the Exchange building, because that's what I have in my mind. It's fabulous. What I would prefer as a solution, because I don't believe, one, that building can be built based on the height, based on the square footage. I would hope that this committee works very cautiously and talks to the planning board before more money is given. Because even in terms of housing, it was stated in the paper that the old house was going to be moved and they'd received permission from the Historic Commission. The Historic Commission doesn't dictate whether a property can be moved or not. It's only what happens to the building, wrong information. So getting information directly from the planning board is critical in terms of giving money. I would suggest very strongly that the developer, and God bless him for what he's trying to do, because I think it's the best intentions sometimes have terrible consequences. He wants to do a mixed-use facility that has rental properties anywhere from 30 to 40 units. Fine. We all agree, fine. You have a Mr. Duncan Berry, who understands the architecture, understands the history of the area. He's chair of the planning board. You have $10,000 were spent just on pictures of the area, renderings that are available. Take that to an architect and say, here's the guidelines under which that property should be used. Let's develop something that fits in, one, to the guidelines, and second, to the premise under which that whole area became a district. All that can work together towards a project that works. If we don't communicate amongst all of us, it's going to be a little here, yes there, all the little yeses, until it becomes a big yes, and it becomes like the Baptist church, a big nightmare. And then I was thinking about that Baptist church and how it applied here, and all of a sudden, there was like a little light bulb went off. Maybe I can share that light bulb with everyone here. The Baptist church, a developer came in and said, gee, I want to refurbish the church and put housing in it. What a great idea. Then he looked at the cost realistically, this is my opinion, and said, oh man, we got to tear it down. But you know what? We're going to rebuild it just the way it was. Now you'd think the community would say, yes, what a great idea. It didn't. It fought back and fought back hard, to the point that at the last board meeting, 2 board meetings ago, they're going back to the attorneys to see if they can do something about it. And then I thought, now we have a developer who wants to take an old building that was on another side of town, that the town destroyed, and rebuild that structure somewhere else. Isn't that kind of the same thing? So that kind of was a light bulb saying, okay, look, we've got to find a way of getting the two sides to work together. So I'm advocating 100% for the project. I'm advocating for housing as part of the project. I'm advocating for mixed use as part of the project. What I'm not advocating for is to take 13 years worth of work, and getting zoning changed in this town is not easy. And that was done. And not at the first straw ripping it up and saying, oh well, this is a great idea, let's do it. Because who in town would not want something of that size built? Now, I'll take one more second then. I haven't seen the actual rendering. All I have is the rendering that's in my head of the Exchange building. It was a beautiful building. But now I start to think, if I take the windows out of that building, and I change this and I change that, well, maybe that concept isn't so pretty. So we all have to look at that. And where are we in the process? And my question to you is, we gave an opportunity for permitting and plans, and we paid for that. We're going to pay for that, even though there may be some collateral. For what? A concept? That to me is wrong, and I will state that unequivocally. We don't invest in concepts. I would hope that this committee, moving forward, at least has approval of the planning commission or the planning board, or has plans that fit into an area before moving forward. That's the only thing I can ask. My solution to this is make sure that the building fits the regulations before any movement is made forward. And I thank you for your time. I hope I haven't upset everybody now. Thank you.
You have it. It's always good to hear
Thank you.
input on the project.
Yep.
Appreciate it, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Oh, you did.
You can stay around though, Lou.
Do I have to?
Next on the agenda is the new business and our item day of minutes. Bob, I think you had a comment?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as written and to include as an addendum to the minutes the application that was submitted by John Kerry for West Harwich Square.
I guess that, the minutes are correct, it's just we didn't
That's right.
add the actual application to it, so.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? I just have one part of the minutes was the approval that Lou mentioned for the West Harwich Square, the $150,000. And we did get an invoice for that last week, and which I asked Megan Green to pay. And we did have those in minutes, so we were legal that way as well. So.
Good.
No more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Question for you, if I was not there for the whole meeting, do I just abstain?
No, go ahead.
Like say aye?
Yeah.
Aye.
Moving on to old business, Joe and, Bob is going to lead the discussion on identity of properties we have, parcels we have that we may want to consider for sale. And just to set this up, Bob has been, this has been on our radar for some time on the parcels we have, and by both Bob and Brendan. And so Bob, I'll give the floor to you, and we'll see where we're going. Brendan will help you when he can.
Okay. I think it's clear that we've been able to make progress on the affordable housing question in Harwich over the last 2 years by using cash to make that happen. And that cash has been coming out of our reserves, and that's an appropriate expenditure of reserves. I think that we should be positioning ourselves through the sale of some of our properties to replenish those reserves and put ourselves in a position to be able to take action down the road. So my proposal is to seriously consider marketing 0 Oak Street, 0 Depot Street, and 0 Depot Road. Those 3 properties are held in the trust's name. I believe that we should use the assessor's valuation of those properties as the basis of sales, and that's my proposal.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, and we'll let everyone chime in as we go forward on this, but what I'd like to do then is, first just one comment. In the past, we've had some question about, do we have to hire, do we have to get an assessment done?
An appraisal?
An appraisal rather done.
Right.
Or could we use the town assessment value?
Mm-hmm.
And we did get a response. I think Joe responded, I've been a couple months ago now, responded to that, saying that we could use either the assessor's value or an appraisal. The only caveat to that opinion is that we couldn't start with one and then change our mind midstream. You know, we use the appraisal and decide, well, that's not good enough. So we go with the assessor's values and we're locked into that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only comment on that. What I'd like to do then is take these properties one at a time and start with Oak Street, and the two of you kind of lead us through. You have plot diagrams, so you know. I'd like to be able to feel comfortable myself that it makes more sense to sell it than it is to build on it.
Okay.
That's been my reluctance on this idea. I just hate to give away property, but it makes more. But I'll go with where we go. I think we just need that discussion.
Okay. So I'll turn it to Brendan.
I mean, shall we start with 0 Depot? Do you want to go in the order that you said? I mean,
It doesn't matter. Pick one, and we got 3. I'd like to go through.
yeah. Well, why don't we go through 0 Depot Road and 0 Orleans Road, which is referred to as map and parcel 63, J1, J2, and J3. This is a property that has restrictions on it from Article 61 amendment from the 2019 town meeting. It's zone 2, which means 10,000 square feet per bedroom. And the total acreage is 23.35 acres. And the valuation on the assessed value is a little bit over 1.9.
And that's current?
That is current from what I took off the town, correct. It wasn't off what's in your book.
Right.
It's what I took from the town recently.
Julie, you have a comment?
And just for clarity, each lot obviously has its own assessed value.
Exactly. And this is, run through the details of why, is it buildable?
There is a portion, when you get to the J1, J2, there's no restrictions on that land. Now, of course, there's been not a feasibility study, but MHP reviewed this, and that's when they came up with, the parcels J1 and J2 potentially could be buildable, but, this would have to still be the due diligence of the new buyer to vet that. So they have to go to conservation and health, maybe do a preliminary discussion. This property is unique because we didn't do a site plan. For example, Oak Street, we did a site plan, and we had conservation and health weigh in on that. So we could talk more of that property in detail, but this one is going to be by the buyer to do the due diligence.
As is.
Pretty much as is, correct. And there's going to be restrictions that, we have this here, that it's in a zone 2, we know that.
I'm looking for a map of that, right?
The southern property falls within the Mass Endangered Species Program jurisdiction, but it's way down. You can't build there anyways if you tried.
Yeah.
So really, ideally, the upper parcels, so
Which
You're
text is
you're in
this?
section 17, Larry?
section 17, go back. Go back. There you go. Go to full page. Should be there.
This is it.
No. That's Oak Street. Sign your book. Anyways.
Share it with Larry.
Julie, you want to look at?
Yeah, I'm
this?
looking at the GIS.
So when you look at J2 is 4.59 acres, and J1 is 1.41. So that's some pretty good land there. It's almost, 6 acres plus? And there's access on Depot Road and on Orleans. So that would be, but obviously we're selling the property as a whole, and that might be attractive to a buyer.
You're talking J1, J2, but not J3?
Well, J3, this line here represents the 100-foot from the northernmost vernal pool.
Right.
So you really can't build from here up, which is kind of a rule anyways to a certain degree without mitigation. But the 100-foot rule, 50-foot rule, and then there's a 60-foot rule for foundations. So in this case, push it all aside, we're just dealing with a 100-foot rule at this property. So this 6 acres, and then you get all this other bonus acres as well. So we're trying to sell J1, J2, J3 at the same time.
Okay?
Okay?
Just for the record, 40% of this piece of property is in zone 2, which is a well zone.
Right.
Correct, and then the southernmost property is in the Mass Endangered Species Program jurisdiction.
Right.
So that's that green zone, you can't do anything there anyways.
Zone 2 doesn't forbid building there, but it does require additional treatment.
Yeah, but I
Makes it
mean,
more expensive.
well, no, because the amendment that was passed on the floor is there's no building south of that line. So you really just omit that about, 85% of J3. So ultimately, development on this property will be concentrated to the northern portion.
But there is room for someone to build on the northern portion.
Correct, and I would assume,
That's correct.
we're
So it has
assuming.
value, but it makes it hard for us to use as affordable housing with one. Economics wouldn't, we couldn't do it for one house, that's clear.
Correct.
Absolutely agree.
Right.
And did you say that, sorry, through you, Larry,
Go ahead.
J1 and J2 total approximately 6 acres?
Yeah, J1 is 1.41, and then J2 is 4.59, so roughly just a little bit under that or over that, yeah. Actually, it's right on,
6?
and it's 6. 5, 6, yeah, it's exactly 6 acres.
So my only fear about using the assessor's value there is there's not a lot of places you can find 6 acres, right?
Mhm.
And so, I don't know, I'm just saying, I know it's an expense and I know it takes time, but I'm wondering if an appraisal makes more sense there, because we can't flip.
Right.
Well, it's 1.9 million. Let's say
Yeah.
if it was just 6 acres.
Right, that's what I'm saying, right? So 1.9 is the assessed value.
Yeah, but without a 40B, you'd have to do, you know, this is really meant for just a single-family home at that point.
Right, but there's value in having, like, let's just say you had somebody who was interested in that parcel and only wanted it. You know, but where in Harwich can you get 6 acres and be like, this is my parcel?
No, I understand that.
So that's my only
Yeah.
fear about using
Yeah.
the assessed value, because if we're looking to get the biggest bang for our buck, is 1.9 really a true value of 6 acres to yourself? And there are people out there who could easily pay that.
Yeah.
Plus there is the bonus, there's another, you know, so J3 is 17 plus acres.
Right, so you're
So you put in
getting,
perspective that someone might want it for different purposes or
yeah,
to go
right.
for a walk every day.
Exactly, you could have your own little compound there, and
Yeah,
so
well,
there's,
I don't think we need to decide what the use is gonna be in the future.
Right.
But,
but how would we
you know, we've
disperse?
got
of it?
1.9 potentially sitting in front of us.
Yeah,
It's
So
a,
it could be potentially a fair amount more if we have it appraised, that's.
right,
I don't know if the assessment takes into account all the restrictions. So when those assessments were done, that was done before this feasibility study was done as well.
Mhm.
So that's really just based on acreage. So I'm not saying it's somewhat accurate, but it has some value.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
disputing, I'm just trying to think of, like, you
The,
know,
The difficulty we've had with getting an appraisal is not the expense, because it's not that much money.
no, it's,
It's been the timing.
right. The only thing I could say to that, and I haven't seen anything on appraisals recently in
Yeah.
terms of schedule and stuff, but I would say the current market may not be overall what it was prior,
So it may
so
be more-
it might be easier to get. I don't know, I'm just,
And it opens up the door to a potential buyer wanting a site plan. And we would never pay that for
Right, that'd be-
20, whatever it is, you know, 23 acres.
no, but at least an appraisal
Yeah,
would have
that'd be-
somebody looking at
You
comps.
know, we've been hanging on to it for some, I guess I want to get full value for it, I wouldn't be against that, not saying a positive, I'd be for looking at appraisal, you know. If we move to sell it with an appraisal value, that gets us down the road.
So you're saying a potential vote to have it appraised, to see if that number is accurate.
Well, at that point, I don't care if it's accurate or not, we'd use the appraised value.
Well, right, exactly, I'm just saying, as a comparison.
Yeah. Because it is a big lot.
I mean, and again, the only reason I'm saying that
It'd be
is,
ideal, because you could have a house on one side and you have all the open
Yeah.
space behind you.
that's what, yeah, I mean, where in the world could you get that kind of property for $2 million? Because it's not, to your point, Brendan, you know, it's
Yeah.
buildable, but has restrictions.
Yeah.
But overall, you're still kind of acquiring a massive piece of property.
Yeah.
So it's a unique piece of property, and it certainly wouldn't appeal to a lot of people, but other people it would certainly appeal to.
Agreed. So your suggestion then, Julie, is that we go ahead thinking of selling this property, but get an appraisal to establish the value as opposed to using the assessor's value.
Right. And I get the expense, of course, Brendan's right. I mean, we would never want to spend the money on getting a site plan for this, but we could certainly get comps to give us some type of value on a property this large.
Do we know the
even-
cost of an appraisal?
Well,
think they
in
were-
the past, it's been, $5,000-6,000.
I heard the figure $40,000.
No. We have, not in my experience, in the past, it's been way less than that,
Okay.
maybe on the low side, but not.
Yeah. Maybe it would be different in the sense of that this is a unique parcel. Maybe it would be more than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, that's,
But I think if it's under 10,000, right, there's a
Yeah.
different procurement.
It's a different procurement. We
Right.
can just do it. I'm not, I mean, time flies, I've been gone for that, but it's been a couple of years, so we never paid more than 8 or 9.
I would certainly be agreeable to the idea of getting an appraisal, price for an appraisal,
So we could,
so that adds to our conversation.
well, what we can do is, we can go ahead and take action and say we're gonna sell it. We have a motion to do that, and then look into an appraisal as being part of that. I don't wanna drag this on forever, Bob, but
Yep.
that's been our decision, and
That's,
let's do it. That's one decision, and the next one is to get an appraisal.
But maybe just leave the door open. Well, I guess just do appraisal.
I think we do, we asked for an
Okay.
appraisal.
okay. Do you want to make that a motion?
I could,
Sure.
if you're concerned about the price, we can cap that, say we're doing an appraisal that's no more than $10,000.
I mean, the only reason I'd hesitate on that is because then we have to come back and reconsider and
Right.
if
Just-
we're
I
over,
don't
so.
want- I don't want to drag this on.
Right, so why don't,
That's fine.
just make a
Before we
motion
take a
to,
vote, though, let me, that's where we are. Anyone in the audience care to comment? Liz?
Hello, Elizabeth Harder, Harwich Center. How many of the 6 acres are buildable?
Well, we really can't answer that. I would love to say you can build something, but I only have the information that MHP did on that evaluation initially. So the upper acres look like they're buildable, but you still have to run through that process. So
6 acres is more than enough.
you should be able to build
For-
something. I agree
It's
with
not a one-home
Yeah.
lot. And with the rules under the Seasonal Communities Act and with the rules under the New Homes Act, there's so much you can do
Yeah.
on 6 acres. You can do tiny homes, you can do ADUs, you can put a municipal overlay on it, and I think 6 acres. I think if 6 acres are buildable, I strongly suggest get the assessment, and then I think if the 6 acres are buildable, you do not want to sell it, and you might be able to work out a deal with conservation or somebody that has a lot that they have under their control, but that technically isn't really conservation. You know, you drive by and you see like these little bits in between houses. Maybe they'd make a trade for the, the other 23 acres or however, minus the 6, whatever that woodland is, in terms for letting us put 2 houses in between where they have trees. I don't know if that's at all doable. I'm just throwing that out there. But I feel like to agree now to sell before you get an appraisal and before you know what you're doing, I mean, 6 acres is a lot.
But I agree with that, because I've been reluctant, but we've gone through these discussions about what the restrictions are in terms of, I think that 6 acres is not all buildable, and you have the wetland, the buffer zones required, the extra cost for zone 2 for septic. I think for affordable, it does become a stretch. Now, if we get big money, then there's other properties around.
All I ask is that you not agree that it is definitely going to be sold until you get the final appraisal. That's my ask.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Okay, we have that,
Okay, that's good.
and thank you, Liz.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's on the shorter side of money, meaning under the 10,000 for the appraisal, I think that's reasonable to make sure we're not making a mistake here.
I
If it's
think-
like 40 grand, I'm not saying we take our chances, but I'm not interested in spending money, so.
But if it's projected to be more than $10,000,
Yeah,
how much more?
yeah, exactly.
And,
Well, that goes to
and we
procurement.
need to know that
Right.
we're not being frivolous
right.
with our property.
Yeah, so
So-
Julie, how do we find that out? Like, who would be?
I
talk to
can
Joe?
follow up
You
with
can
Joe.
follow up?
Yeah, I'll follow
Perfect.
up with Joe.
Yeah, I feel good about that.
Okay.
Good. Like to have the same conversation on 0 Oak Street.
Well, wait a minute, we
Can
haven't
we make
finished this
a
one.
motion for that?
What's the motion here then? We're gonna move to to do the appraisal first and come back, is that the?
Well, why don't we leave it till I follow up with Joe, get a
And
cost, and
we'll
then we
continue
won't
that.
take any
We'll
action.
continue that?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
can sit
You're
with it.
comfortable with that?
Yep, yep. 0 Oak Street.
Okay, so 0 Oak Street, we actually did a site plan, Coastal did the site plan. It's always been kind of ready for an RFP or an appraisal to sell. So the town planner did a review, and that was Paul who left, so I never got a final answer on a question on the property. But if you look at the map that's in front of you,
Yeah.
and I'll get the big one. So if you're looking at the whole property, so it's 2 parcels, and there's a vernal pool here. Vernal pool, the red represents, the green's the wetlands.
Mhm.
This is your 100, I'm sorry, this is your 50, that's your 100. So really,
Yeah.
from talking to conservation and health, and you still have to run it by them officially, but you can really only put your leaching field in this little triangle. And then when you do your setbacks, I did some hand drawing here, when you do your setbacks of 25 feet and 20 from the sides, you have this little triangle here that you could build something. Whether you do mitigation and you get into the 50, but then there's also a rule of 60 feet on new foundation work from vernal pools. So your window gets really small, but this little section here, I mean, could you build a little tiny house similar to the one on Forest Street? We have a little tiny house, if you've ever gone down Forest, they have a golf course. A little tiny house and you have 3 acres, this might be valuable to somebody. But as far as affordable housing goes, we would not be able to build anything
Right.
bigger than a bread box. So that's the gist of this. That's the short, quick take on this. We've done this before as an exercise. But anyways,
And what's the assessed value you have on this one?
555, $555,000, and $555,500.
and it's 2.9 acres, both lots.
There's a 595 or 50?
555.
555.
4 5s and 2 zeros.
So yeah, unfortunately, it's another property that's 3 acres, but you really, affordable is just definitely out for us.
Right.
And it probably should be sold.
Okay. And you're comfortable using the assessed value on this one?
I am.
I'm always looking for as much as we can get.
So we
but
spent money for this already.
How much did that cost?
I don't know. I don't know the answer. That was a couple of years ago, so.
Well,
uh,
Well, here's
but-
what I
but
would
the
say.
thing is, it could become competitive, right? You have more than
Yeah.
one bid. so-
Well, what about what we did on Queen Anne, where we said, I think we said, we know it's assessed at blah, 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 because, but we also know there's a limited number of industrial sites. So the board agreed that we would not entertain, and I believe I'm right, I'd have to go back and look at minutes or the meeting, but we said, we don't want anything less than, I'm just making it $9.95.
Right, so we don't want, can't be,
Yeah, because again, you're talking about, you'll have a tiny house, but you could have potentially 3
Yeah,
acres.
the next step, this goes to an engineer. He designs a
Right.
septic, finds the footprint.
Right,
And see if it all
and
works.
figures out what they could do,
Yeah.
right. But it's 3 acres technically.
Correct.
so really our restrictions are then, we sell for no less than the assessed
We-
value, but people who come in for more could,
When's if we get an offer for less than that?
well,
Yeah, why don't we get-
take it.
No, but can you negotiate after?
I mean, I think,
Just curious.
If we decide, excuse me,
Mhm.
but if we decide that we're using the assessor's value to determine the value of the
Yeah.
property, we can still entertain offers that are less than that.
That's a gray area, because I'm not sure.
Joe can answer that. For us.
yeah, I can follow up with him on that question too. But the only thing I'll say, and I I felt this way even when we just agreed to sell more property on Queen Anne Road. At some
Yeah.
point, we also, I know that everybody says, there's tons of land,
Yeah.
but there isn't really tons
No.
of land.
Yeah.
And at some point, we need to be careful not to sell off all this land, and I get what we're trying to do is for a good purpose. I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying that as I've watched us sell off more and more properties, I also think to Leo's point, Leo Kukunis's point at town meeting, sometimes you're gonna need these properties and you don't even know yet why.
Yeah.
So as much as I wanna see us get more money to help for housing, I also wanna be mindful. 555 being the assessed value for a 3-acre parcel, we all know you can't buy a house for 555, right? So now, and that's for a postage stamp. Now you're talking about possibly giving up a property that's 3 acres, that includes wetlands, that could be protected. I don't know. I mean, maybe part of it is we wouldn't take less than 555, and if somebody was trying to lowball that, you could say that we want a conservation restriction,
Yeah.
a trade-off. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can say that in your RFP, but.
Either way, you wouldn't have to, it's already set in stone. Those
Yeah, but what I'm
boundaries.
saying is you would have to say, what's the public benefit?
Yeah,
Right? There should be, if you're gonna give up that kind of land for that kind of price, then what is the town getting for that? Not just housing, right? We're replenishing the housing trust. But also, if we're gonna go, if we're willing to let that property go, then is there a trade-off? Is there something that we also give the public something?
and the question that Paul was working on at the time, and Christine never had a chance to take a look at this town planner-wise,
Mm-hmm.
is that the high ground, does it have to be continuous? So I don't know how many square feet you have to actually have a buildable
The
portion on the
buildable
lot.
upland.
And if it, does it have to be continuous? Because you'd have to bridge to each dry spot. So that was the question that Paul was working on. He didn't have the answer. So, and then he ended up
Yeah.
leaving or retiring, whatever.
So, on that though, so I think our bylaw says, but I can check and I'll check with both Christine and Joe on that, because normally buildable upland is contiguous.
Mhm.
You know,
So
it
that's the
wouldn't,
question.
it wouldn't be worthwhile, like if you don't have contiguous, but some towns let you calculate it differently, so I'll look at that
Yeah.
with them.
So why don't we kick this one, continue this one, just for next meeting, because we really, that was the one answer we just didn't get, and with the, crossover between the two town planners.
Because Bob, your point, I'm trying to remember, in the past, I don't think we've been allowed to sell below the assessed
I
value.
don't think so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
So if that's what it is, then that's our bylaw.
And Julie can take that on and
Yeah,
have an
I'll
answer.
follow up with
And
that.
then we can make a
yeah.
decision next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, we're making slow process.
We're moving, and that makes me happy. 0 Depot Street.
So 0 Depot Street is assessed at $201,300. It is 1+ acre. It is in zone 2. There's a 60 feet no disturb. I'm assuming there's probably, and that, right, there's another vernal pool there. So if you go to that property, that one has a vernal pool right in the middle of it as well. So what we did is we took, Oak Street really seemed to be the most promising. That's why we did the site
Mhm.
plan on it, and we thought we were gonna get more yield, and we didn't. This property is even worse because it has a massive vernal pool right in the middle. So it's gonna be, well, it's kind of offset, but then there's a 60 feet do not disturb rule. So once you do that and do your setbacks, can something be built there? This one might be easier. We could probably make a decision on this tonight if we wanted to. But this property, it's not as big as Oak, is what's only an acre.
Mhm.
But with all the setbacks, the vernal pool and the 60 feet.
What are the setbacks on that?
Well, I'm assuming it's 25 feet in the front, 20 on the sides, and then 60 feet to the vernal pool. So just to get this sense.
And what's the value again?
$201,300.
We certainly dropped from 1.9.
I'm sorry?
We certainly
Oh,
dropped
That's a
from
quick sketch, but
1.9.
with the setbacks, you get like this little horseshoe,
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
That's the equivalent of one affordable housing unit.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to make the point that with cash in our pockets to purchase affordable units, that can happen in a 2-year time span as opposed to a 5-year time span.
Yep. I'm just looking at.
So your wishes, Julie? Should we move on this?
I'm just looking at the setbacks because some of them are. This is so. So it's zone 2. What's the Is it RR district though? What's the district? Do you know?
I can probably pull
I'm
that
looking.
up.
I didn't pull up the
No,
field
it's-
card.
It's on the assessor's card. Let's see what it is, though.
Some of these are 30.
Is it Depot Street?
Yep.
Yeah, so Depot Street. I don't know if it'll have the, on the assessor's card, does it?
Oh, actually, you know what, Harwich, we no, we don't.
We don't.
We
It's-
have
it
to
would
look
be
at the
here.
zoning
The
map.
zoning map.
Yeah. Which I hope we
Yeah,
can
just
correct that
remember-
someday.
Yeah.
I can probably
That's
pull it.
fine. I'm just looking because it's only 25 for looking at the setbacks.
I would assume it's 25 front, 20 on the sides.
Probably, yeah.
And 20 rear. I
Yeah.
mean, most of the properties are, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Larry.
Hi, Brianna.
Hi, I don't know if you guys saw my little hand raised, but I just
No,
I
I'm
have
sorry.
to hop off. That's okay. I have to hop off, but I did want to let you know, and let Julie know too that I'm happy to work with Joe and Megan on any RFQ, so requests for quotes for the appraisal.
Great.
I've done it for other properties, so if that's helpful for you guys, I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, I can save Julie some work and go right to Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just shoot me an email after the meeting, whenever you can, or I'll email you tomorrow to go over the rest of the properties that you discussed tonight.
Okay, thank you, Brianna.
Okay, thank you.
I forget to look at the screen.
I know,
to
I
see if there's
did
a-
too.
anything.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think there's limitations on that one.
I think it's RM. Is it RM?
It's awful, isn't it, trying to figure it out?
I mean, yeah, it's not easy to find sometimes.
I'm looking too. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I think it.
You're right, it doesn't show, obviously it doesn't show.
No, you got to look at the map. We really need to see if we can start putting that into the system of putting it on the field card. That's where it's difficult.
That's what that big space is for.
I mean, if it's Depot Road, it's either RR or RM.
Or yeah,
Yeah.
And
Great
Depot Street
Western.
is,
No, yeah, it's
it's
right on
either.
it. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
It looks like it could be RL. I can't tell.
Yeah, I don't see that. Are you on this map?
I'm on the. Yeah,
See what you get.
it's Depot Street.
Depot Street
Yeah.
is what we're looking
Depot
for.
Street.
CRL. And
So what's RL
Residential
then?
ones, yeah. So it's R, yeah, it's R.
residential low dent. I think.
I
Let
was
me.
in the wrong spot.
I think so. Let me see. I just had it up, but
Will that influence our decision to sell it or not?
Well, just the only reason I was asking that is because when you're looking at RL, just trying to see what the RL is. 15% site coverage, lot coverage, and then site coverage, and then I'm looking for the setbacks, which are on the other. Here are the area use regulations. And, you know, we don't have to figure it out tonight, but RL is a little bit different. Let me just look that. Height and bulk. Yeah, where are our setbacks? Hold on.
Well, there is room to build here, that's clear.
Yeah.
A single family or a duplex.
Right.
It's interesting, our map looks like, that looked like RL, yet, here it is, okay, so it's 25, 20, and 20. So the front, so you're right, like, that's roughly what it would be, so, I mean,
That's how
it's gonna limit you.
Yeah.
So give me
You got
again,
the pool here, you
it's,
got
so
the-
what is it, R what?
It's, RL is 25 and 20 and 20.
And 20 where, yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting, though, the only other thing here that it notes, and so obviously, single-family dwellings are in open space residential developments. We should probably just ask Christine a little bit for a little more info, because it also says lot area, you know, normally 40,000, right? This one says 5 contiguous acres with 30% of the applicable land to remain open space. Lot area per unit, 12,000. So we should make sure that it is RL, because that, our zoning map is not the greatest.
Okay.
Because maybe we're looking at it and it's not, but it looks, to me, it looks like it's RL. And the only other thing it could be was IL.
You want more on my glasses?
Oh, it's terrible, like this. I mean, really, that is, I gotta write that down as a priority.
Okay. So you want to consider 0 Depot Street the same as 0 Oak Street? We want to collect more information before we can make a determination?
Yeah, only because when, I mean, you saw it, right, Brendan? I mean, it does look like it
Yeah.
looks like it's RL. If
That's
it's
fine.
RL, there may be reasons
fine.
that it doesn't,
Well, move it, we'll make the right decision.
Yeah.
It's on the table, and we're moving forward. That's, I think,
Yeah, that's the goal tonight.
all that
too.
we need to have happen.
Yeah. Great.
so that's another one I'll follow up
Yeah.
with Christine with Brianna, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to put your dot points in the email and,
Yeah, I'll put these 3 things and I'll copy everybody.
Yeah.
I'll blind copy you guys, I'll copy Brianna,
yeah,
and I'll send it to you.
okay.
All right.
Well, good discussions.
Yep, thank you.
We're,
You
we'll
want
have
to jump
some-
in? What's next?
next on the agenda,
What do you want to hit more part? You
That's it.
want to hit, oh, so we're going to hit system mode. Okay.
I'll give you that. Okay.
I thought that was a place to start.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's great. Perfect.
well, I did ask Bob also to talk about 265 Simpson Road, which you know is the junior theater.
Yep.
And primarily that's, I wanted, because I think, have you met with their board yet now?
I haven't
I give you the floor.
Yep, okay. This is in regards to the 265 Sisson Road. I did meet with Christine Flynn to talk about her point of view and getting suggestions as to how we might move forward on this. And she really thought it was going to be important for us to develop a campus plan and to get very actively involved in a community engagement process, look at ways to preserve green space, and have the appropriate design folks get involved. And I'm not sure at what point any of these activities take place. But I think that we also have to look at, she suggested we look at traffic study information, that we clarify the septic system capacity, and that we find out from the planning folks, planning committee, whether or not we'd be looking at a multifamily permit or a comprehensive permit. And we'd have to look at and better understand setbacks and variances. There's a lot of work to do on this still, and at some point soon, we need to engage with, I think, not only the junior theater, but also with the historic commission.
Yeah.
Because this is an important project that would have impact from a
It's
historic
actually in
point
the
of view.
district as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, so there's multiple places that we have to go. But it's in motion.
And so your entry into this would be to try to get a site, concept plan to.
Well, we've got a
or
concept
we have
plan.
a concept plan.
That's right, from Bowler.
And that would be maybe a meeting with the other, maybe we could do that as one of our trustees, invite the junior theater and the historical reps.
I think that'd be a home
to the
run.
meeting,
Yep.
and just, and open this up to maybe do that as an agenda item.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah.
'Cause- and then we can answer, I know one of you guys sent me comments that there were questions about the septic. Wasn't clear whether that was, there's a septic there, but
Mm.
someone sent me, maybe it was you, Bob, that
Yeah.
wasn't clear whether those were, when they signed off as is, was
Mm.
to get the proper term of that, or that was planned septic. As built.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't clear on the diagram we have, so there's some questions like that we have to answer.
Well, what shows up from the health department record is that there was a new septic tank installed.
Right.
A
And we have a picture of
1,000
that,
gallon
yeah.
capacity, which was larger than the previous tank. But I don't know that actually qualifies as a Title V
I don't know, yeah.
septic system.
Oh,
So
mm.
I don't know enough about
Yeah.
that.
It's only 1,000-gallon tank? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think so, right?
Houses are.
So there's more work there, but I think moving forward by inviting,
Well, why don't we do that? We'll talk.
A group
We'll
conversation.
send an invitation and get a group conversation and see if
Was there ever housing in like any type of, way back, I know it was the previous use, but was there even ever an apartment affiliated with that?
that's a good question. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been on the radar for housing.
Mm.
Bob Doan might know the answer to
Yeah,
that
the
question.
Was there ever any kind of apartment or anything affiliated with like the junior theater? No. So that's why they could have had a smaller septic, because they didn't have bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that is something, another expense going forward.
Mm. But that's a very good point, because if we're thinking housing in there in any format, I don't, where do you put that?
Well, Bowler has,
They have that on
Identified
there?
the space,
Okay,
yep.
great.
yep,
Yeah, we have a pretty good conceptual plan.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that. Not that I need to see it now, but I'd love to see it.
We'll be sure we get it, somehow we get it to you.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So I'm gonna give this to you.
Okay.
Just give this back to you. Why don't you take this with you?
Oh, great. Yeah, perfect.
This
Yeah.
has everything.
Okay, great, thank you.
So there's yours.
that's,
Thank you, Elizabeth Harder.
Thanks.
While you're talking about selling property, was this property ever offered to whoever owns Country Meadows?
Oh, the
Because I lived
condo
there
place?
at the condo
Yeah.
place, and we used to walk up this whole property
Right, 'cause it-
to get to town.
It's right at the back.
So
You can
has
walk back and
anyone
forth.
discussed with them, would they like it? Because that, you could probably get a hefty, if they wanted it, they might
Yeah.
get money, so you might want, I don't know who owns Country Meadow, but it's a great,
Good question.
it's a,
Because it is linked to the, you can.
yeah.
I didn't realize you could access that
Oh,
from the
yeah, I
back.
used, because when I was taking care of my mother and mothers and daughters, the great gardens, so I rented a condo in that, sublet a condo in that property, and first of all, great property, but yeah, you just cut up the hill, and you're
There's a
right.
path, people do that
Yeah.
quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, it might be worth asking them, if they wanted it.
Good point.
Even if, even if it's not big enough for them to put in one of their big things, they might want it for
Green
covered
space,
parking
yeah.
for some of the older people, or, something, anything. So
Okay.
that's just my
Thank you.
suggestion. Talk to them, see if they want it. Thanks.
Okay. I think we're all where we want to be on that too, then
We're good?
we're shoving everything down the road, but I think that's okay.
No, it's-
We're moving.
That's right. There's an intention to it, not just an avoidance.
Is there enough on those? Next on the agenda item is the rental systems. I put that on before I actually went to, but as you know, CPC has approved our
I'll be right back.
our article for the town meeting for $500,000 for
Mhm.
the trust fund. They did not approve the rental assistance funding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even in the paper today, so the argument was it wasn't well enough, we didn't have enough experience with it to go ahead.
Yeah.
And so there we are. What we have at the moment is our rental assistance program has helped 5 families with a 6th that they're about ready to sign off after they do all their due diligence that they qualify, which based on the 150,000 we have now, that would go for 3 years. People could drop off, but we could help 2 more families.
Oh, good.
So we have some room on that. I was suggested to Claudia that, because she's been the main driver in this, to discuss this more when she's here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little surprised there wasn't more of a demand on this. More people requesting funding.
Yeah.
The funding we have been giving out has been at $500 per month, and we decided $300 probably in today's world is not enough.
I wonder if it's just, and again, I know we talked all about advertising, and I know it's out there. I just think sometimes people aren't engaged,
That's, That's my opinion. I don't have any facts for that, but I don't think people know about it.
I don't either. I mean, I mentioned it to some people to say, hey, you might, and they had no idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
But-
not on us in the sense that it's being advertised.
No, and, the Homeless Prevention Council, that was one of their strengths, and they do, but they've been around and
Yeah.
been out with it. They have the newsletters out with, and so you would hope that, that or through various people in town, officials in town would bring it up, but in any case, the members of CPC weren't comfortable in providing more funds for that. Now, if we had a activity that we felt that we really needed to help, we can divert some of our trust monies to help people. That's what we did this time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I have to tell you about something I just learned about yesterday, and it wouldn't be something the trust could offer, but I'm going to look into it a little further. It would be something, how we're having this conversation about what else can we do to help
Yeah.
other people who don't qualify for affordable. I've never heard of this before, but they're doing it in Eastham, or they're going forward, hoping. I don't know if it's been approved yet. And the idea is that it doesn't affect the rent. They don't control anything to do with the rent. They're paying homeowners. The plan is to pay homeowners who would normally rent their property seasonally to not rent them seasonally and rent them year round. But they don't get involved in the rent. That people can charge what they
Yeah.
want. But on the side, they would pay them to keep it as a year-round rental.
Yeah.
So that means that, you do have people out there, especially like a lot of young professionals who have the money, there just are no places to lease. I thought that was really interesting. So I'm going to follow up on that from our point of view, from the select board point of view,
Yeah.
to see if there's something that we could do along those lines after I get more info.
Okay, good.
Happy to give you all the information.
And part of that, I think, is where Liz has mentioned seasonal communities, basically making,
Yeah, I don't,
which I don't think has been spelled out in detail yet.
right.
Is moving in that direction. Right. Good. The other, town meeting article, I was hoping they would transfer the money from that we get from the short-term rental tax through the spatial purpose fund to the trust. That turned out to be lengthy debate actually at the town meeting. And they did approve, there's about $2.2 million in that spatial purpose fund. And the select board did approve transfer of 1.5 million of that. And so we got part of it, I think.
That's 15, that's 10 units. That's okay.
Yeah, good job.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Well, I'm still disappointed because I don't think they understand exactly what the purpose was of the short-term rental tax, 25% going to low and moderate income. They could be, but it's hard to tell exactly the issue. But I'm pleased we got transfer of 1.5 million, and that does add.
I think that's great.
Mhm.
It's moving forward.
Now be added to our balance along with the CPC funds, okay, so. Okay.
Well,
Is one, give it to me again, 1.5?
1.5 million.
At least we got there.
Yeah.
It actually, the document that I forwarded to you from Megan Green
Mhm.
shows the $2.1 million in the spatial purpose fund as being part of our trust balance.
Uh-huh.
So with that, our trust balance will actually be reduced. You know, and I'm assuming we'll still get the other eventually, because I still think that's the purpose of it.
Mhm.
But it delays it some in my mind.
What doesn't?
Well, yeah, as you know, patience isn't always my long suit.
Yeah, well,
There you go, we are moving forward. And we are, Julie and I are meeting with Joe on Friday to talk about the things that we can do outside of the affordable restriction to help attainable housing, you know, different sources of funding, whatever we can do.
okay.
Which may or may not fall on bad work, but we want to talk about housing in general. As you had mentioned, so one idea, maybe others.
Mhm.
Isn't that, in fact, the purview of the housing committee?
It is, yeah. And they should be going on that, yeah.
Hi. I'm happy to discuss this with you as the chair of the Housing Committee, and I have another member here. We can give you so many things about attainable housing. Provincetown has a fund
Mhm.
that they use for attainable. I'm sorry.
I think they
Just
may be
did-
doing this program too that I just mentioned.
Oh, yeah, they do that. They do the Veil and Deed, as
Mhm.
housing people call it, which is they'll pay you money for, you know, you're living in your house, great. We'll give you $175,000 now to do whatever you want with it, as long as you put a permanent deed on your house,
Mm.
so that when you sell your house, it gets sold with a year-round deed restriction, which you'd think, why would anyone want to do that? Because it would lower the value of their house. Except if people aren't leaving it to their kids,
Mm.
they don't care. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people are like, great, then we could go take the cruise we've always wanted
Mm.
to take. So that's another way to get attainable housing. There's also through the Seasonal Communities Act, there are various ways. And then the reason I have not been seen so much is the county has the regional housing strategy that the Cape Commission did that has a lot of these things. If you just go look at their, suggestions and zoning changes, you'll see things. And right now the county is trying to, they put me in charge of the committee that's going to handle housing. So I am trying to, we're going through the budget process right now. But once the budget is done, the county is really going to dig in on housing because frankly, I think, for example, the Attainable Housing Trust that, the P-Town has, that might be able to make a heck of a lot more money if it's a regional trust, because something like that, trying to find other regional ways that we can help, and we can help a lot with Attainable, because Capital A, I'm also going to try to get my zoning thing in where towns have a 5 to 7% shot. But there's a lot of things in the New Homes Act that will help with Attainable. Unfortunately, none of them we can access, and I haven't bothered telling you about because we don't have a approved housing plan. So we can't do any of this stuff until the housing plan is approved in town and then sent to the state. So we've lost a year, but if we want to have a town, if you want to have a fall meeting, can we get a lot of attainable housing
Well, we as
stuff
a
done?
select board did approve the housing production plan the other night.
Yeah, I saw
So,
that.
Yeah.
Finally.
Right.
Yeah, I was reading the Housing Act today, some of the key points and stuff. There's one thing, there are like 50 points and it's so complicated, and a lot of it is, I think, more aspirational than fact.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to judge on where that's actually going to take us.
And a lot of
And so I'm reluctant to pay a lot of attention to it now.
right now, there is a lot of it that's aspirational, and my main problem with the plan is they're calling it $5 billion housing plan, but that's mainly tax relief, which doesn't really help towns or anybody like that. The only way it really helps is getting around some state regulations that we used to have to follow and letting us create an overlay district for municipal employees. You used to not be able to specify, no, we want this for our town.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can if they're municipal employees. So then we get to house firemen and police officers and everybody here. So
If I may, Elizabeth, the mandate for the housing committee is to inform the select board
Yeah, they're
on
an,
housing
One-
matters?
one
they're
of
an
them,
advisory committee to the
Yeah.
select.
To the
board.
select board, okay.
yeah,
So why are we getting involved in attainable housing?
Well, we're
Why isn't this information that you're talking about right now, why isn't that being presented to the select board?
because there was no point to it until they passed the housing production plan. You cannot access these programs unless you either, until the housing production plan is passed. And they took 6 months.
Well-
So
But what difference does that make?
it means there's no point wasting everybody's time telling them about these things
Why?
if they can't access them.
But why aren't you getting things teed up for them?
I've got things teed up. I mean,
Okay.
but it's,
But it's,
it's banging my head against the wall. I have
I
so
don't
much
believe-
information
I
on
don't
so many
believe
things.
that this is our purview.
well,
May I say something? I'm interrupting the chair, and I'm terribly sorry. I think the reason for me it's helpful to discuss it here is because people listen to you, and nobody listens to me.
Well, how if
I
we
don't get
do it-
emails answered. I don't get any.
How about if we
thing
do the
from the
joint?
town. So
Yeah, so what we should do is probably do a joint meeting with the committee and us,
beautiful.
and then we can have this discussion bigger and you know, if we can help out, or
Right.
to Bob's point, if you need a new mandate from the select board, then so be it, or you make suggestions to them, because obviously they're not thinking about what you're thinking about, so.
I'm going to directly answer Bob's question.
Please.
It teed up for us because of the warrant article that Edward Manus put in last spring meeting, trying to raise the
200%.
the 200%, which I objected to, was make it, was one thing, they would argue we're helping everyone,
Yeah.
rather than attainable maybe 100, like I see the state has, this act has, I think most of us define attainable housing 120% of AMI. One of the documents that, for me, this the housing, the state, it goes so many misdirections. They have one attainable housing trust, 110%. So they're not consistent within themselves.
Right.
So I find it discouraging to read
So,
what they've done.
yeah.
But that's why I got teed up for us, is are the ways that we could be doing more, you know, to broaden the spectrum.
Well, and also, not to interrupt, but the other part of that discussion too is we talked about trying to change language in the trust
Yeah.
to make it more expansive. But then that goes back to the attainable and whether or not we're even going to see any action on that.
Right.
So that's why I want to give that presentation about the AMI
Yeah.
and the trust documents and, you know,
Right.
the regional housing strategy that Cape Cod Commission put out, where the
We'll
word
put that-
attainable came out.
Mhm.
Liz and I have been on forums where we've been hearing that language. And attainable for them, when I spoke to the director of the Cape Cod Commission, attainable is for anyone at 30% to get to 50 and 80% to get, and so on. It's all about climbing the ladder. That's what
Mhm.
attainable is, and it should really span all of it.
Mhm.
So it's really replacing the lowercase a.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well, we'll come back.
but I'd love to have a bigger discussion about that,
Yeah,
because
I would love that.
workforce housing, you know, it's just all these terms. We have low to moderate housing,
Right.
80% or less AMI, CPC funds, 100% AMI.
Mhm.
Anything north of that, there's no funding.
Right.
And that's where
Right.
Elizabeth's been working
And
hard.
that's what I've been working
Right.
on, trying to find all the different
But it'd be
funding
nice if we
sources that are
had the same
available.
language, and then when we convert the AMI discussion to the trust docs, maybe have a good handle on it. I'd like to present that,
Yeah.
but I'll ask Larry if he wants to put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Right, and I know it's not on the agenda tonight, so we better be careful about how far we go, right?
I just
So-
wanted to answer Bob's question.
Yeah,
Thank you,
right.
because I would love you on madly if we did
Okay,
that.
so that brings us up to answer our agenda, actually. Bob, you're just here listening, or do you have a comment or anything?
No.
I don't want to
No
leave you
good.
alone. I'm so pleased you're here. So, good. Any other discussion? If not, we'll follow up. We got a lot of things to follow up on.
Yep.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. So I'll try to touch base with, Joe and Christine and Brianna. And I will do the email, probably get to that tomorrow, all right? But I'll also try, while I draft that email, to, stop, turn this off.
Yeah.
Signature.
It's really, low to moderate is the only language that sits in any of the comprehensive permit documents from 1969.
Stop.
The thing is, you